Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. As usual, I'm just going to give a couple of just 1 minute to allow you guys to come in before we start the business of the day. But hey, even as you guys keep coming in, how are you doing? Those at work, those on traffic, those at home working remotely. How has your day been? This is Monday, the first day of no, this is actually the second day, but the yeah, it's the first working day of the week. But checking our calendar, it happens to be the second day of the week. Hope you guys are doing well. I can see a couple of familiar names on the attendees list. You guys are welcome. Like I said earlier on, I was just going to give just 1 minute to allow you guys to come in before we start the business of the day. I think I'll just take it off from here, even as people keep joining us. Good afternoon once again and welcome. For those of you guys that are joining us for the first time, my name is Gagba Esahaya, and I'm the training coordinator of the Temple Small Business Development Center. The Temple Small Business Development Center helps small business start and grow. We offer free one-on-one consulting and a variety of low to no cost webinars. We are proud to be part of the nationally accredited network of the Small Business Development Centers, which has over 1,000 networks across the United States. You're here this afternoon for a webinar on local CEO for small businesses. A copy of the PowerPoint and a link to the recording will be sent to all the attendees. Being a webinar, all the attendees have been muted. However, we always encourage you guys to drop your question on the Q&A or the chat box. Today is indeed a good day. Without further ado, please allow me to welcome our wonderful speaker, even as he takes over the floor for the presentation. Mr. Zack, you're welcome.
Thank you, Garba. Thank you, everyone. It's really good to be here. As Garba said, my name is Zack Duncan. I work for a small business, my own digital marketing business called Root and Branch Group. And yeah, I put together a couple fun facts. I guess you'll be the judge as to whether or not they're fun, but 5 facts about me. I am the digital marketing executive in residence at the University of Pittsburgh, which sounds, I think, much fancier than it actually is. It just means I get to talk about this kind of stuff with students at Pitt. So I talk about local SEO, Google Ads, Google Analytics, on-page SEO, kind of all things in the digital marketing universe. I grew up in a small town in Connecticut, but I've been in Pittsburgh since 2006. Really have loved it here. Third fact, most of my working career was at Dick's Sporting Goods. So I actually graduated from Penn State in 2006, moved to Pittsburgh to work for Dick's Sporting Goods. So most of my career was in retail marketing, and then ended up moving over to digital marketing to kind of try to get a little more flexibility from a scheduling standpoint, because my wife and I were getting ready to have a daughter. We didn't have family here. And I was like, oh, digital marketing, I can do that from, my house. And yeah, that kind of launched me on a path to doing a lot of like certifications, trying to learn Google Ads. And yeah, I've been doing that since. I have a genetic heart condition and a pacemaker and defibrillator. And it actually, I had that since high school, but it saved my life 8 years ago. I was running in a race, a Washington, D.C. cherry blossom 10 miler, and I would have died if this defibrillator didn't save my life. So I'm 38, but I try to have the perspective that I'm really like +8. So I'm kind of just like living on bonus time right now. And it's super great to be with you guys. Oh, and next month, I'm moving in North Carolina. We'll be closer to some family there. My wife got a new job, and I will totally miss the people of Pittsburgh and the beer, but I hope to continue to come back. So that's me. So what do you guys care about, though? Why are you here, and what are we going to talk about today related to local SEO? We'll talk about the digital marketing ecosystem and Google's role in that, just to kind of orient us to where we are. We'll think about, what does Google want? We'll talk about the SERP. So if you get nothing else from today, you'll get a fun new acronym, the Search Engine Results Page, the SERP, and how we can think about that. We'll talk about some crazy local search statistics. and why local SEO is so important. And then we'll talk about the Google Business Profile and how we can earn more near me searches, dentist near me, coffee shop near me, clothes store near me, all of those kinds of things, which is really the heart of what local SEO is about. We'll also include in that how to measure those things with a platform called Google Search Console. And we'll also touch on Google Analytics, how Google Analytics can help us measure that as well. And then we'll have just a couple appendix slides. So I have a YouTube channel. It's not great. It's not super professionally done by any stretch, but there's a lot of like how-to videos in there, like how do you do certain things in local SEO or Google Ads or whatever. So at various points in today's presentation, I'll highlight, hey, if you really want to go into more depth on this, you might want to check out a video. And in the appendix, there'll be links to those if you decide that's something you're interested in. Okay, so today, the platforms that we will talk about. The most important one is Google My Business. Actually, it was called Google My Business. It was rebranded. So in 2022, it's actually called the Google Business Profile. The second most important platform, we're going to talk about something called NAP in local SEO and a platform called Yext that can be used to work with that. So that's the silver medal. Third place, Google Search Console. And just off the medal stand is Google Analytics. In terms of what I hope you guys get out of today, these two are really the most important. So if some of the Google Search Console stuff or Google Analytics notes seem a little bit squishy, I would say as long as we get 1 and 2 on the list for you, hopefully this is something where you guys decide, hey, that was really worth my time and I learned something that can help my business. All right, so the digital marketing ecosystem and Google. When we think about digital marketing, it's just like such a huge, huge topic. We've got social media, right? And social media alone is a massive, massive conversation. Then there's web development like WordPress and Shopify and Squarespace. There's local SEO, like what we're talking about today. There is paid search advertising with platforms like Google Ads and Bing Ads. There's on-site and technical SEO, analytics and conversion rate optimization, CRO, and there's marketing automation with tools like HubSpot. All of this stuff is digital marketing, but at the center of much of it is Google. So this is the second of a 3-part webinar series on Google and search advertising. So last month, if you joined us, we talked about search advertising, how to use Google Ads platform to help small businesses. Today, we're talking about local SEO, May 23rd from 12 to 1. And then next month, on June 13th, we're going to talk about what's called on-site SEO. So basically, today is going to be a lot about the Google Business Profile, things that take place in that platform, and in other various business directories, places like your Yelp page or your Bing Places page. And June 13th is going to be a lot about what actually happens on your website itself, how you can set that up for SEO success. So today is really going to be most impactful, I hope, for businesses that have brick and mortar locations. If you are an e-commerce only business, local SEO is not going to be the most important part of SEO for you. I hope it's still a valuable hour of your time, if that sounds like you. But if you're an e-commerce only business and you want to dig in a little bit more to SEO, these are 2 videos that I think might be worth checking out. One of them is 8 trends that I think are really important for SEO in 2022. Those are mostly on-page SEO trends. And then the second one is what link building and domain authority is in SEO and how we can use that knowledge to help our websites to rank. We'll also talk about that kind of stuff a little bit more in the June 13th webinar. All right, So with that out of the way, let's talk about Google. So Google and their parent company, Alphabet. A couple months ago, Google reported their 2021 revenue. It was $257.6 billion, which is just mind-blowing. That was up 41% compared to 2020 revenue. And 81% of all of that revenue, $209.5 billion, all came from advertising. So even when we think about Alphabet, right, there's lots of different businesses in there. They have like a self-driving car business. There's like some healthcare initiatives, but it's really Google. And the way that Google makes money through advertising, the biggest way is the Google Ads platform. So when we think about SEO, Google wants people to have a great experience on the Google search engine results page, the SERP. Because even if you and I aren't clicking on paid ads all the time, we're just there more often. That keeps us kind of in the network, in the ecosystem of where Google can monetize us. And that gets to, what does Google want? What are Google's motivations? So search engines like Google, which we care about most primarily because they have such a massive share of all of search, but there are also search engines like Baidu, Yahoo, Bing, DuckDuckGo. They're all doing the same thing. They're looking across the internet for content that is relevant, authoritative, and helpful in answering questions from users. Sounds like a real like do-gooder motivation if you just keep it there. So you think about why, like why does Google have this motivation? Why are they in the customer service business? It's because so much of their revenue comes from advertising. So Google really cares about you and I when we click on something on the search engine results page, that it answers our question. It is a good experience for us. And if we keep getting answers that are helpful for us, we're going to keep using Google, and we're going to be far less likely to switch over to DuckDuckGo. So the implication, I think, for all things Google, whether we're talking about local SEO like we are today, on-page SEO like we're talking about next month, or Google Ads like we talked about last month, whatever we're doing, if we think about how can we provide a great user experience, basically provide an answer so someone who's looking for something will find something that satisfies what they're looking for, that's going to make the user happy, and that's going to make Google happy, and in turn going to reward our business by getting us more visibility on the search engine results page. We just want to align our motivations to what Google is trying to do. So let's look at this SERP. Here's an example. A SERP, the search engine results page. You can see in that gold box up there, probably pretty small, but that thing, that's called the search term or the search query or the keyword. It's what somebody's looking for, right? In that green box at the top of the screen, that is a paid ad from the Google Ads platform. You can see it's small black font, it says ad. That's how Google makes $209.5 billion each year, by getting people to click on these. That's where Google's ultimate financial interest lies. But there's lots of other stuff on this page too. Like there's this big old blue box here, and that is called, well, that comes from the Google Business Profile or Google My Business. So we're going to be talking about this a lot today. And those results, those things that are in that blue box, that's called the local pack, sometimes called the local 3-pack, because there are 3 results that show up. And sometimes it's called the map pack as well. All those things are synonyms. And that comes from Google My Business or the Google Business Profile, which is a super free tool. Down all the way at the bottom of this page in red, that is what's actually the first on-page SEO search result. So that's something that's Google's not going to be looking at, say, the Google Business Profile. It's going to look at what's on your WordPress site or your Shopify site or your Squarespace site. And again, that's what we're talking about next month. But as we can see here, so much of the space goes to that Google My Business 3-pack that we really want to know, how can we get our business to show up there? Yeah. So these stats, you guys will have to tell me if you think I'm overstating it here, but these stats blow my mind and reinforce for me why this Google business profile is the single most important thing that I believe most small businesses can do to help their digital marketing presence. And that's specifically so if you have a brick and mortar location. So some crazy stats. 5.6 billion. That is the estimated daily search volume on Google. So about 2 trillion searches a year. And by this point, I'm sure it's more than this, but billions and billions of searches each day on Google. And a huge percentage of those searches, 46% in fact, have local intent. So local intent would be a search like Pittsburgh breweries, right? Although I'll be checking out now like Greensboro breweries when I move to North Carolina. Coffee near me, best pizza in Philly. It's any kind of search where Google judges our intent as indicative of someone who's looking for something that's close to them, right? And that's really the big reason that brick and mortar locations have such a leg up over, say, an online only business for local SEO. Because if you're an online only business, doesn't mean that SEO can't help you, but Google's not going to prioritize your business for something like, let's say, athletic footwear near me, if you're a footwear retailer, because you could serve a customer in State College, Pennsylvania, or Portland, Oregon equally well. Whereas if you have a athletic footwear, like actual brick and mortar location in State College, someone looking for shoes near me, that is going to be something where Google's like, look, the fact that you are located here physically matters a lot to this person because they want to walk into a place and shop. So therefore, those kinds of businesses can get a lot more help from the Google business profile than online only businesses. And 88%. What is that? 88% is the percentage of local searches from a mobile device that result in a call or a physical visit to the business within a 24-hour period. So what does that mean? It means these people, like no one's looking for coffee near me because they're thinking about maybe buying a coffee in 2 weeks, right? When we search for these like high intent local searches, it's because we want to spend our money on something. We want to make a decision and spend money in a very short-term period. And many of these searches trigger that local pack, that local 3-pack to show up on the SERP. So here's another SERP right here for Pittsburgh breweries. I think probably detecting a theme here by now. I think this is the last beer related reference we've got. So the first result here in the map pack, you can see that Southern Tier Brewery. Then second place here, we got Hitchhiker, and third place, Allegheny City. That first result in the map pack is going to get about a quarter of all clicks on the search engine results page, inclusive of any like paid ads, any on-page SEO results. A full quarter, 1 out of 4 on average, will go to the first location in the map pack. Position 2 gets about 14% of clicks, and position 3 gets just under 10% of all clicks. So if we look at those taken together as a unit, at a minimum, it's 47.8% of all clicks. Some data suggests that this is actually, slightly north of 50%. So just kind of for the sake of simple math, we can say it's about half. About half of all clicks will go to one of the top 3 local pack results on a SERP where the local pack is displayed. And that local pack appears with 93% of all of those searches with local intent. So all of those like footwear near me, coffee near me, pizza in Philly, best restaurants in Pittsburgh, 93% of those searches are going to trigger one of these local packs. And we know the local pack is all about this Google business profile. So just in sum, the case for local SEO, if you're not convinced yet, let me try to convince you here. Local SEO represents a massive number of total searches. 46% of the nearly 6 billion Google searches each day are local, and it's high intent. Nearly 9 in 10 of those searches on a mobile device result in a visit or call within a 24-hour period, because these people are looking to spend money when they're taking the time to do a local search, ready to convert. And it is highly 3-pack driven, because 93% of all of these high intent local searches will trigger a local pack that claims half of all of the clicks on the SERP. Google My Business leading to 50% of all the clicks. So how do we rank in the 3-pack and drive clicks and conversions? Conversions being somebody who, let's say, become a new patient or a new client or the new customer at your store. How do we drive more clicks and conversions for near me type of searches? The Google Business Profile. Yeah, let's talk about it. So briefly, just what's new in 2022 with this platform. I had mentioned this before, but people who got used to calling this Google My Business, like me, it's now called the Google Business Profile. So if you're hearing me say Google My Business or the acronym GMB in the future, I'm talking about the Google Business Profile. Got a little rebrand. So that's new, but what's not new is it remains the platform with, my opinion, the potential to be the most important digital marketing tool for many local businesses. And again, it's super free. So who's it for? Any business that has a physical location and serves customers from a given geography. The Google Business Profile, it's the same engine that drives Google Maps. So again, businesses that show up on a map rather than a virtual or a home-based business do get a leg up. So that's not to say that virtual or home-based businesses shouldn't actually use Google My Business. My business, international headquarters for Root and Branch Group, was at my house outside of Pittsburgh. I have a Google Business listing in the process of moving it because I'm moving to North Carolina. But people would find Root and Branch through that local pack for searches like digital marketing near me or SEO consultant near me. So I would still, even if you're a home-based business or an online retailer, I would still recommend setting up and optimizing your Google Business listing, which we'll be talking about. So how do we get more of those near me searches? 6 things to do. So the first one, if for some reason you haven't done this yet, you should claim and optimize your Google Business listing. Google will gladly give out free business listings for people. You just need to prove to Google, hey, I actually own this business. So to do that, you can go to mybusiness.google.com. You'll see a page like this, and you'll be able to hit that button, check out in the bottom left, to manage one now. And that's going to then get you in the mix for searches like, if you're an electrician, for example, electricians near me. But we're going to look at this as an example for a tree trimming business. This is a business where I pretty recently set up a Google Business listing for them. And what we do after we've claimed and verified ownership. So once you say, hey, Google, I want to manage this business, Google will say, hey, prove that you own this. And they'll typically send you a postcard with a verification code that then you plug back into the Google Business Profile. And that's kind of the sync for Google to say, okay, I see you. You said you own it. And I mailed a postcard to the place where you said the business is, and you got it and you plugged it in. I believe that you own it. You'll see something slightly different if you already manage a Google Business listing. Like, let's say you have multiple locations, you've already claimed one business listing and you want to do another. You can go back to that same place, mybusiness.google.com, and you'll see all the businesses that you manage or have access to. And you'll be able to hit this add a business button and then go through the same verification process. After you have verified ownership, you're going to want to complete your profile. What does that mean? Well, Google's looking for information in this info section right here in the red box. This is what you'll see when you're logged in. And in that info section, you'll fill out information like the name of the business, the address of the business, phone number, your business hours. If you have a website outside of the Google business profile, which most people do, I would say not everyone does, but most do, you'd add that link to the website. We'll talk a little bit later about how we can use Google Analytics to see how that web traffic that comes to your website from clicks through your Google business listing, how that performs. And you can also add a business description of up to 750 characters where you can describe how you serve customers. These three things, name, address, and phone, that's an acronym called NAP in local SEO, where name, address, phone, Google's looking for that same information, that same NAP information across other directories as well. So Google is going to look at your Google business profile, but they're also going to look at if you have a Yelp page, if you have a Bing Places page, if you have a listing on yp.com, to see, hey, is this business legit? Is it for real? Does it show the same name, address, and phone number across all these other places? If so, Google is going to be far more likely to trust your business and think this is a business that's going to provide a great user experience for somebody. And that's going to make Google much more likely to show your business in the map pack. If you think about why, a lot of businesses over the years, maybe they've changed their location, right? Maybe they've changed their phone number. Maybe they've even changed their website. So if those things have changed, but the information isn't consistent across different places, Google's not going to know what to show because they certainly don't want to show a business in the 3-pack that might not have the right phone number, because that's not a great user experience. They don't want to show a business that might not have the right address, not a great user experience. So we'll talk about shortly how you can quickly check to see what your NAP consistency looks like and how you might be able to fix it if there are any problems. Oh, and also pictures. This is kind of like one that seems pretty small, but pictures are actually an important part of local SEO. And that's because Google knows that if you and I were looking to maybe make a new decision about a new restaurant to check out, or maybe a new doctor's office or a dentist, we're going to want to look at pictures, right? Like what does the staff look like? What's the food look like? Like what's the front of the building look like? All of that stuff is going to help us feel better about a decision we're going to make. So businesses that post and upload pictures tend to perform better in the local 3-pack. There's also something called your primary and your additional categories in the Google business profile. So that's number 2. It's so important. This is split out here. So here's our tree trimming business. And we can see we got this primary category that we put in here for tree service. This business also happens to do landscaping and lawn care service. But tree service is their most important business service because it's their highest margin and it's their biggest revenue driver. So whatever is, if you're a business that provides multiple functions, you should choose the one that is the most important to your business as your primary category. Pretty intuitive, but I think worth mentioning. Because these others, as we'll see, don't have the same SEO impact as your primary category. And these are all kind of like predetermined options. Google has a list and you can basically just search and select the one that is the closest fit for what you are. Again, you can only choose one primary category, but you can choose up to 10 if your business is that multifaceted. You can choose up to 10 additional categories. But again, the primary category is the most important factor for ranking. Now, I'm saying that not because Google has told me that. Google doesn't share information about their algorithm, but there was this survey for people who work in local SEO, and based on their experience, what are the top 15 local 3-pack factors in terms of showing up there? And you can see number 1 right there, the primary Google My Business category. And then 5th place on the list there are any additional GMB categories. So just a really simple, quick thing to set up, but hugely important for showing up in the local pack. Now, can I prove it? I'll try to prove it. It's so important. Because the third thing to do after your business listing is live, there's a way within the Google business profile to see what actual search terms your business is showing up for. So if you hit this little insights area right there, you'll be able to see what are those specific search queries that people are typing in, and then Google is electing to show your business. So for this particular business, if we go and look at those specific searches, we can tie them back pretty clearly to that primary category of tree service. Look at that. 7 out of the top 10. I've kind of blanked out here what the specific geographies are. I mean, it's a Pittsburgh area tree trimming business, but number 1, tree service near me. Number 2, tree removal. Same thing with number 4. Number 7, tree removal near me, tree service, and tree trimming near me. So this is hundreds and hundreds of searches that you can get your business showing up for in that local pack. And so much of it, again, is going to be tied to what that primary category is. So what I would recommend is after you've done this and after you've looked at the search breakdown, confirm that the searches you are showing up for are the types of searches that you want to invest time in earning. Are these the searches that can make your business money? If so, reinforce that keyword theme, tree service, tree trimming, in the ways that you respond to reviews. Use that to guide any new pictures that you'll upload. Remember those 750 characters you get in your business description? Make sure the keyword theme that you want is shown up there. And I'm not saying like, just beat it to the point of like death. Like you don't want to write like, so-and-so is a great tree trimming business. If you're looking for tree service, we're the place that will trim your trees for you. Because we've got tree removal, tree service, and hedge and tree trimming. Like you don't want to do that, because Google's gonna read that as like, seems kind of like something that Google would call keyword stuffing. I would say just kind of like use your common sense. But you definitely also don't want to do something like so-and-so business like has provided great customer service to the Pittsburgh area for the last 30 years. We're proud to serve our customers and we always stand behind the work that we do. The reason you don't want to say that is because there's no mention in there about tree service or tree trimming. So you kind of want both of those things. Make sure you are including the kind of search terms that customers will be looking for, but also don't just like write like a robot. Here's what, this is something that's called the knowledge panel. So if this will show up on the right side of the Google search engine results page, it's coming from the same engine as the Google business profile. But if someone looks for your business by name instead of, tree service near me, this is what Google will show. It's also possible that if, let's say, somebody is like right next to your business and you've got a coffee shop and somebody searches for coffee near me, Google might, instead of showing the local pack, they might just show, I've already made up your mind for you. I'm just going to show you this one business. So here's where different things that we fill out when we're creating our Google business profile in that info section, here's where they show up. So this is where the business shows up on Google Maps. Remember, Google business profile, same engine that drives Google Maps. If you upload a logo, that's kind of faint and small there, but your logo will show up. If you have additional photos, which again, highly recommended, this is where they will show up. Reviews and ratings, as we'll talk about coming up, these are really important. Those will show up there. Also down there at the bottom. Your business hours will show there. Your phone number will show up there. Down at the bottom is where your business description shows. It's cut off in this image, but that's where you get 750 characters. If there are other reviews about your business online, Google will find them and kind of just append them to your business listing. Google does that automatically. If for some reason you don't have a website, you can actually hit a button in your Google business profile and Google will build kind of a version of a website for you. This is, I would say, not the best option for businesses that want to invest in maybe a more substantial website, but it's an option to consider. And right there, the yellow arrow, there's the all important primary category. So in that insights reporting that we were talking about, not only can you see the specific search queries that are prompting Google to show your business, but you can see what actions customers are taking when they view your business listing. So you can see how many people click to visit your website, how many people hit the button to request directions to your store, and how many people hit a button from a mobile device to call you. And you can see that in the graph there, it's graphed over time. You can look at this over the last quarter, or you can hit the drop down to look at the last month or the last week. Now, if you are going to be serious about this, and there's only so much we can do as small business owners, but let's say you've got a great intern, or you've got someone who wants to volunteer and do digital marketing to help you, I think it's really worthwhile tracking this over time. Here's an example from, this is a business that has been a client of Root and Branches for the last several years. It's a healthcare practice with multiple locations. And every month we just go into that report that we were just looking at, how many visits to the website, how many direction requests, how many calls. We'll go in at the end of the month, and for each business listing, pump them into this spreadsheet where we're tracking things like what's the average review rating, what's the last month total searches, last month website visits, calls, and direction requests. And in March of 2022, for example, there were 956 total phone calls across all of the business listings. Not all of them, but many of them from new patients who are looking to schedule. And since we tracked that same data 12 months ago, we know that that was 7% more compared to March 2021. And just by adding up last month phone calls from each of these 6 different listings. All right, so what's the fourth thing to do to get more of these near me searches? This is where NAP comes in. So review your other business directory listings. There's a lot of them. There's like more than 60, even though really the Google business profile matters so much more than all of the others. Google, remember, is more inclined to trust businesses with consistent listings in terms of NAP, name, address, phone, from other places as well. Other places like Yelp, Bing places, MapQuest, YP.com. If you want to check how your business shows up, there's a link here. This will also be in the appendix. And you can just put in like your business name, your address, your phone, and your website, and hit this scan now button, and it will spit out a report showing like how is your business showing up at these other places as well. And if you have problems, it's a good idea to fix them. So it might just be a signal to you to go in and manually fix them, but there are also tools that are out there. One is called Synup, and one that I use is called Yext, and you can fix them all at once. You basically create one single set of information for your business, and then Yext will push that information out to all of the directories that you ask to sync with it. So then when Google looks, Google will see that really nice NAP consistency for your business at other places on the internet. All right, almost done. Number 5, ongoing Google My Business or Google Business Profile Management. After you've kind of set things up, you've got your NAP in a good spot, what do you do? Well, one, I mentioned pictures are important. If you can make it a regular habit to add more pictures, even like once a quarter, that's going to be something that Google sees and likes and helps your business to rank. Answer any questions. People can post questions on your Google business listing. You know, are you open on Black Friday? Do you carry this brand? Do you take Discover Card? Whatever. You as a business owner, you will get emails when people post questions, and when you go in and answer them, not only does that make that person who asked the question really happy, it makes other people happy too, because they can then see questions that have been asked historically and how the business has responded. So responding with, I think it probably goes without saying, but in a friendly way, in a way that represents your brand, and with as much detail as possible, all reinforces for Google, hey, this is a business that's going to provide a great user experience, and I want to show that business. And then earning reviews. And once you've earned them, responding to those reviews. Reviews are really important. Again, it's not actually as important as the primary category, but once you have that primary category right, your secondary categories, you've posted your pictures, you've kind of had the basics, continuing to generate reviews is a really important thing to do next. So we're going to look at that same healthcare business and how they doubled the number of near me searches that they were getting traffic for on a year-over-year basis. The catalyst for this was they changed their average rating from a 3.9 to a 4.7. So let's look at some of that data. And this is where we're talking about Google Search Console. Google Search Console is a totally free platform where Google will show you, hey, how is your business showing up online? How is your website showing up online? So if you don't have a website, you can't use Google Search Console. If you do have a website, you can use Google Search Console. So let's check it out. Here's an example of what the data in Google Search Console looks like. You can see how it shows up in Google Organic Search. So for this particular business, in that red box there, it shows 14,200 total clicks. So total clicks from all of Google Organic Search. So all the clicks from Google that weren't Google Ads that we didn't pay for, including clicks from on-page SEO and also any clicks from our Google business listing that went to our website. Now, if you hit that, it's faint there, but if you hit that new button plus new, you can add a filter to drill into this data. And if you apply something called a query filter, a search query filter, we can see how many of those search queries contained the term near me. You can also apply different filters, like if you wanted to do a query to say how many search terms included my business name, for example, you can do that. But in this case, we're just using it for these near me searches. And then you hit that apply button. So when we do that, we see that same business in the last 3 months. There were 751 total clicks from Google Organic Search that included near me. And if we change our date range, so this one here, we're looking at the last 3 months, but you can filter this as well to look at different date ranges. We can compare year-over-year performance if we want. So when we do that, we can see that total click number, 751, which compares to 373 during the same 3-month period in the prior year. So those near me searches were up 101.3%. And we know from some of our other data that people who come to the website looking for something like this kind of dermatologist near me, they become new patients at about a 10% rate. So we get that data from our paid search that we also run in Google Ads. So we know that these near me searches are really valuable for us. They're high intent and they tend to convert people into patients. So yeah, 378 additional searches converting at 10% or more. We can say, hey, that's about 38 more patients that we generated this year compared to last year just by getting all of these more incremental near me searches. We can see some of them here, right? And this data is also from Google Search Console. You see dermatologist near me, dermatologist near me, pediatric dermatologist near me, bowl removal near me. You get the idea. But this is all data from that query filter in Google Search Console. You'll also see impressions. So like how often did the business show up, and then clicks. So this is I would say a time for an additional YouTube resource. If you want to see a little bit more about how to use Google Search Console, there's this 5-minute video with a link in the appendix about how we can track keyword rankings with Google Search Console. And yeah, now we'll talk briefly about Google Analytics. I had mentioned this is kind of like 4th place of all the platforms and concepts to learn about today. But this is a screenshot from Google Analytics, that same business. So what's graphed here on the screen below is monthly data from January 1st of 2018 through the end of March 2022. So that's what's showing up in the blue in the graph below, that monthly number. And the orange number is the year prior period. So you can see how that has trended up over time. And in the month of March, there were 18,641 unique users, which is up 103% compared to the year prior. This is in total, all traffic to the website. You can see that there. But not only can we see totals, we can also see traffic coming to the website that clicked from the Google business profile listings. So that clicked through one of those 3 packs. And we know these people, these prospects, when they see our business in the local 3-pack, they can click to call. That can be a new lead. They can request directions. That can be valuable. And they can also click to the website. So with Google Analytics, we can track people who click to the website. And we can see for the month in question, for March, there were an additional 25.96 monthly users just for traffic coming from Google My Business. So 1,378 users. And those people coming from one click on the Google business profile, 71 of them completed this goal conversion. They completed a form and hit the thank you page. So that was up at 97.22%. If you want to do something like this, I would say if you're not using Google Analytics right now, I wouldn't probably do this, but if you are using Google Analytics and you want to know, hey, how can I get more insight? How can I isolate my Google My Business traffic? That would be maybe a good reason to watch one or both of these videos, how you can track leads with something called UTM parameters, which will allow you to see that traffic just from your Google business profile on your, how that traffic performs once it gets to your website, how you can track that with these UTM parameters. All right, just before we wrap up with this, I'll have a final review management reminder. This is a review that came in for that tree trimming business. And you can see in the reply that the business put in, very friendly, thanking them for their feedback, which is important again, because it's a great experience for somebody who's leaving a review. And it's also something where other people who might be thinking about working with your business, they're going to check out your reviews too. Not just the average rating, but also how you respond. And I would say this is probably most important to do on your best reviews and also your worst reviews. When you get those really, really upset customers who maybe they don't even have a valid reason to be upset, but handling those in a professional way, offering, if there is a way to make it right, offering to make it right, and then making it clear to those people who are upset that you'd be happy to talk with them more if they want to follow up offline. All of that stuff I would say is really, really important, because people are going to look at your reviews and evaluate your business based on how you respond to them. And when you can, in your reply, reinforce that keyword theme. If you want to rank for something like tree trimming near me, tree trimming services, you can use that, and Google is going to see that when they evaluate all of the content in your business listing, and that's going to help you continue to rank for those searches. And again, you want to kind of balance it here. You don't want to just slam tree trimming in there every time so you sound like a crazy tree trimming robot, but work it in if you can. Excuse me. Whew. All right, last thing on your website that is linked to your Google business profile, whether that's WordPress or Squarespace or Wix, if you can, produce high quality local content. 6 things to look for when you're trying to find the best athletic footwear retailer in State College, right? And then earn high quality links if you can. If you have business partners, customers who have other ways to get other websites to link back to yours, Google is going to look at those links as signs to trust your business. We'll talk about links and optimizing content more in that 613 webinar about on-page SEO, but this will help on a local side as well. And then keep your site optimized for mobile use. So much of search, especially for local search, is on a mobile device. So if your site is not optimized for mobile, Google is not going to be as likely to reward it because, again, not the best user experience. So you want something that loads quickly, text that can be easily readable, and links that are easily clickable. And that's it. 6 steps to local SEO domination. I had mentioned, put some links here in the appendix. So if you want a copy of the deck when we're through with today, there will be links to those 8 trends for SEO in 2022. Also how to use UTM parameters, link building and domain authority basics, and these 2 videos as well, along with the link if you want to check your NAP situation for your business. So with that, I'm done. Garba, how do we want to do questions?
Yeah, Zach, thank you for a wonderful presentation. Before we dive into the question and answers section, I just want to draw the attention of our wonderful attendees. I did posted a 30-second survey about today's webinar. Please, remember we at Temple SPDC, we always cherish your feedbacks, even as it helps us to improve on the services we provide to you guys at a low cost. So can you take 30 seconds of your time to help us to fill out the survey link I just posted? I saw a lot of questions. We've got some on the Q&A and others on the chat. So I don't know which of them you will start with. We have like 6 on the Q&A and a couple on the chat box.
Okay, let's see. Well, I'll go to the Q&A questions first, if that's cool with you, Garba. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So first question, easy one from Mike. Will the slide deck be shared? Yes. Good question, Mike. We can answer that. We will share the deck. Garba, I think you said you'll send it out after. Is that correct?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. Question from Jacqueline. Do you pay to be part of the 3-pack or does Google choose it? Google chooses it. So we earn it based on how good our Google business profile is. It is possible, I should say, sometimes Google will show a 4th result in the local 3-pack that will show ad next to it. Those are people who have paid to be in it, but otherwise we are earning this. This is like why I'm like a broken record here, but why I think the Google business profile is so important, because this is big real estate that converts at a high rate. And for the most part, we're either earning it or not earning it based on how much Google thinks we're going to provide a great user experience based on the information in our Google business profile. Crystal asked, how do you edit your primary category? Let me show you guys that really briefly. Let's see. I'm going to go here to mybusiness.google.com. And we're going to look at, let's look at Everyday Cafe, which is an awesome coffee shop in Pittsburgh. I should say, if you're ever there, check it out. But we're going to go to info right here. So the navigation is along the left side. You see home, posts, info. We're going to hit info. And right here, this is where we change our name. And this is where we would change our primary category. So these guys, their primary category is cafe. Their additional category, remember the 5th most important ranking factor, coffee shop. And if we wanted to change this to comic cafe or art cafe or dog cafe, which we're not going to, that's where we would do it right there. Great question. Jacqueline, how does Google know what customers did after their search? Do companies report this to Google? So companies don't report this to Google. In terms of what customers do after their search, let's just check out right here for a second. Like, I'm going to search for coffee near me. So if I, let's say on Carnegie Coffee Company here, so we can see right under Carnegie Coffee Company, there's this button for website, directions, and call. If I hit this call button right there on a mobile device, Google My Business is just going to log that as a call. The business doesn't need to report it. If I hit directions, that's going to take me over to Google Maps, and the Google business profile, the engine that drives that, is going to track, hey, somebody just requested directions. But in terms of people who go to your website actually, and then do something on your website, that information is through a platform called Google Analytics, which is really not what we're talking about today. But you can set up something that's called conversion tracking and tell Google Analytics, hey, I want to look for when people, complete this checkout process or fill out this contact form. And yeah, there's some, again, if you're into that, there's some links on the YouTube channel that I mentioned, how to set up conversion tracking. Jacqueline also asked, do you know if Google customizes their SERPs based on the user's past activities? Yeah, I think Google does. So if Google knows, hey, like, I think I know what you're looking for, then Google will be more likely to show you something. But Google's also going to say, hey, if you're looking for coffee near me, like, you're probably maybe looking for Google to kind of evaluate from scratch, because you're not saying, hey, I want X coffee shop near me. Kristen asked, does Google care at all about an active Facebook business page or just the other search engines? Yeah, Google does care about Facebook. Facebook would be one of those other business directories, along with your Yelp page, yp.com, Yellow Pages. So that does help. I would say it is, at least in terms of showing up in the local 3-pack, it is far, far, far less important than just doing the things we talked about today in the Google business profile. But yeah, an active Facebook business page helps. So wonderful. Well, thank you for the kind words. If no brick and mortar business, are town and zip code sufficient to set up Google My Business and for other Google searches? So yeah, you can have something that's called a service. I think it's called a service area business, where you don't actually put in something for your physical address. You can do that. I think Google will still want to have an address to be able to send to verify the postcard, but then you can say, Google, I don't want to show this on Google Maps. Yes. If I'm working with a company that is doing my SEO, how do I know if it's actually working? This question from Kashal. That is such a good question. And I would say, Kashal, like, I would put that on that company, like, to prove to you. And I always think, like, ultimately, if the SEO work that you're paying for isn't leading to more conversions, so that could be more calls to your business, more physical visits to a brick and mortar location, more completed checkout forms or completed contact forms. If it's not doing that, like, how can you really understand if it's making your business more money? And if it's not making your business more money, how can you as a business owner decide, is it worth me spending $200 or $500 a month or $1,000, whatever it is? So I would ask your SEO company, like, what's happening with conversions? Like, how much more are we getting from our customers from what I'm paying for? And if it's not more right now, like, what's kind of the plan to get there? I would be, my experience, very wary of SEO businesses that only say, hey, we used to rank 19 for this keyword, and now we rank number 7 or 6, because that's good, but if it ultimately doesn't lead to more conversions, again, not going to be something that's ROI positive. Stacy manages several websites for clients who you're now being asked to include SEO setup. Any recommendations? Wow. First recommendation, if those businesses they have brick and mortar locations, the best way to show results is by doing exactly what we did today, getting them in that local 3-pack. From there, I would actually set up these, like, UTM parameters that I mentioned, so you can see how that traffic is performing. from there, man, there's so much you can do, Stacy. This is going to be an unsatisfactory answer, but if you've got the time to watch, I think that video I had linked with like 8 SEO trends that I think are meaningful in 2022, I think it's worth checking out. That would probably be the best way I could answer that. Rona asked, what do you recommend for primary category for niche consultants like audio, visual, AV consultants? I would have to do some research. I couldn't answer that right now. But I would say in general, just like look through, Google doesn't, you don't need to say I'm a niche consultant. Yeah, just like look through those primary category options, see what the best fit is. Jacqueline asked, multiple locations, how do you list them? You'd actually create multiple business listings for each location, because if there's multiple pins on a Google map, Google's gonna want to have different locations for them. All right, Garbo, I'm sorry. I think I went over a little bit, but.
Just take your time, just no problem.
All right, and then let's see. Wow, Rona, this is the kindest feedback I've heard today and this weekend. So thank you so much. I'm really glad that this was worthwhile, Garba. Thank you for the opportunity. Lori, we work in a 65-mile radius of Pittsburgh, but we get calls from other states. They say we pop up on Google. So I would guess, Lori, this isn't someone who's finding you in a local 3-pack. They're seeing one of your on-page SEO results. So there is not a way that I know of only showing up in either PA or that 65-mile radius. This would be, I would say you must actually provide like a really good customer experience, because Google, the fact that Google is showing your business that far out means Google likes you. And I would just say, unfortunately, you're probably going to just have to keep all the good SEO that you have, you're going to have to deal with some of those less qualified inquiries for the time being. That's a great question though. Kimberly asked, she read that you should keep business descriptions below 200 words. My opinion, I don't agree with that. It might be true because Google sometimes won't show all 750 words, but even if Google doesn't show all 750 words, it's still going to read them and crawl them. And I think that's a good opportunity to reflect your business, just my opinion. Kashal, do I use the same password I use for Google Business Profile to access Google Search Console and Google Analytics? Yes, you do. That's a great question. You don't need to set up 3 different like emails. You can use the exact same password for all of those things. Regina, should we post pictures related to the business, like from the blog, or pictures from inside the business, like office pictures? I would say all of the above. Like there's categories of pictures you can post, and Google will say like, hey, show me interior pictures, show me exterior pictures, do all of it. Regina, for each location, do you have to create a separate account? You do not. So from that same, mybusiness.google.com, you can see I have access to like, I don't know, 43 businesses here, right? So if I wanted to create another one, I would just hit this blue button to add a business. And it's the same, all tied to the same email address. Kashal, does writing custom blogs on my website help me with SEO? It sure does. And I would say, Kashal, if you are doing keyword research, and maybe if you're available, come on 613, because we're going to be talking a lot about how blogs can help with on-page SEO. All right. Small Biz Philly, how can I differentiate my local business from competitors with a similar product or service? That's always a hard question, but I would think about like, why should a customer choose you compared to another place? Like, do you have better customer service? Do you offer like a more fun experience? Is your pricing lower? Is your pricing higher, but because you reflect, a better quality of the input cost that you put into your product? Whatever that differentiator is, highlight it. And yeah, that's got to be the place where you prove to those customers, this is why you should choose us. And Kashal, does Google offer free resources for keyword research? There is a free research tool within the Google Ads platform called Google Ads Keyword Planner. My favorite keyword research tools are not that. if you go to the root and branch site, this is my website, and search for like free SEO tools. I don't know the URL off the top of my head, but I put together a blog. Let's see. Yeah. The best free SEO tools. I have some links in here to what I think are the keyword research tools that I use the most. Yeah, Uber Suggest I really like. So I would point you in that direction for that. And I think that's everything.
Yeah, you've nailed everything that actually came up during the presentation. Because we're actually eating up to like 5 extra minutes, but hey, that's cool. I love that. Before we wrap it up, I just want to use this opportunity to thank you, Zach, for a wonderful presentation. And I also want to thank our wonderful attendees for taking their time, for taking a day with us. And also, lastly, before we wrap it up, just want to use this opportunity to appreciate my fellow Temple SPDC colleague for their wonderful support and encouragement. Without them, we wouldn't have been here, and this webinar wouldn't have come into existence. Thank you for everything I'm doing during the rest of the day. Bye-bye.